The planet Geoprime was not formed from magma and tectonic shifts. It was grown. It was a world of flawless geometry, where vast plains of faceted quartz met mountains of solid obsidian. And ruling over this glittering perfection were the Krystari. The Krystari were beings of living mineral, slow-moving and immensely powerful sentience whose bodies were harder than any armor known to man. They valued one thing above all else: permanence. Their capital, the citadel of eternal refraction, was considered the single most impenetrable structure in the galaxy. It wasn't built brick by brick. It was sung into existence from a single hyperdense seed of molecularly perfect diamond. It had no seams. It had no weak points. It stood 10 miles high, a shimmering monument to the idea that some things could last forever. For centuries, empires had broken themselves against the walls of the citadel. The Veil Corée tried plasma bombardments. The heat was simply refracted harmlessly into the atmosphere, making the city shine brighter. The Grox tried kinetic orbital strikes. The tungsten rods shattered on impact against the diamond walls, leaving not even a scratch. To the Krystari, the humans who arrived in their clunky metal ships were just another passing annoyance. Soft creatures of flesh and blood who would soon learn the futility of attacking perfection. Hierarchon Kalis stood on the highest spire of the citadel, his faceted body gleaming in the starlight. He watched the human fleet deploy in the upper atmosphere with a sense of crystalline boredom. "They bring their fire again," Kalis resonated, his voice a series of chiming tones that echoed through the city's structure. "They do not learn. They think brute force can alter the immutable. Let them strike. We shall reflect their anger back at them until they tire and fade away, like all soft things do." The first 3 days of the human assault went exactly as Kalis predicted. The Terran Third Fleet unleashed a bombardment that would have cracked a standard habitable world in half. Nuclear missiles detonated against the Citadel's energy shields. High-yield laser batteries poured enough energy onto the diamond walls to boil an ocean. The result was spectacular but useless. The Citadel didn't buckle. It glowed. The perfect lattice structure of the walls absorbed and redirected the energy, turning the human attack into the galaxy's most expensive light show. Inside the Citadel, the Krystari went about their lives, utterly undisturbed by the apocalypse raging outside. "It is pathetic," Kalis noted, watching a human cruiser retreat, its weapon capacitors drained. "Their physics are crude. They try to push against a mountain that will not move. But the humans weren't trying to move the mountain anymore. They were done with physics. They were switching to acoustics." On the ground, miles from the Citadel, the immense tracks of the 7th Industrial Siege Engineering Corps ground to a halt in the crystal dust. These weren't tanks. They weren't artillery pieces. They were machines built for cracking planets open to get at the GUI centers. Chief Engineer Quake Mulligan spit a stream of tobacco juice onto the shimmering ground. He was a short, squat man who looked like he'd been carved out of granite and smelled like hydraulic fluid. He looked up at the 10-mile-high diamond tower looming in the distance, shimmering in the aftermath of the failed laser attack. "Pretty thing, ain't it?" Mulligan grumbled over the comms to his crew. "Flawless. Perfect. That's the problem with perfection, boys. It's tight. It's tense. It doesn't have any room to wiggle." He climbed into the control cab of the lead machine, a gargantuan apparatus known as a seismic resonance rig. It was essentially a 50-story tall pile driver mounted on treads, designed to send precisely calibrated shockwaves deep into a planet's crust to shatter bedrock for mining. "All right, listen up," Mulligan's voice boomed. "The eggheads up in orbit say this whole city is one single crystal. That means it's got a note. A resonant frequency. It's a giant, 10-mile-high wine glass waiting for an opera singer." He slammed a massive lever forward. "Let's clear our throats." The humans didn't fire a shot at the Citadel. Instead, 50 seismic rigs simultaneously slammed their massive piston hammers into the ground around the city. Tum. The sound wasn't just loud, it was a physical assault. A low-frequency shockwave rippled through the crystalline ground, traveling instantly to the base of the Citadel. Inside the city, Kalis felt a strange sensation. For the first time in 5,000 years, the floor beneath his feet vibrated. It wasn't a violent shake, but a low, persistent hum that seemed to bypass his mineral skin and rattle his very core. What is this dissonance?" Kalis chimed, confused. A delicate crystal chalice on his table began to rattle, then suddenly shattered. Outside, the human rigs began to find their rhythm. Tum, tum, tum. Mulligan watched his monitors as the seismic sensors fed back data from the Citadel structure. "That's it. Feel the pushback. It likes C-sharp below subbase. Dial it in. Increase the tempo. Let's make this thing sing." The humans began to tune their assault. They weren't just hitting the ground randomly, they were creating a perfectly timed standing wave of acoustic energy, aimed directly at the atomic lattice of the Diamond City. The sound grew from a hum into a roar. It was a noise so deep it caused internal hemorrhaging in unprotected organic life. The air around the citadel began to shimmer, not from heat, but from pure sound pressure. Inside, the Krystari were panicking. Their perfect bodies, made of the same material as their city, began to resonate with the attack. They couldn't move. Their thoughts became fragmented as their very brains vibrated out of sync. "Stop it!" Kalis shrieked, his chiming voice turning into a screech of agony as hairline fractures began to appear on his own arm. "The harmony is broken. We are coming undone." The citadel itself began to scream. The massive diamond spires, subjected to trillions of tons of acoustic pressure, started to emit a high-pitched wail that could be heard in orbit. "She's crying, boys?" Mulligan yelled over the roar of his machine, his own teeth rattling in his head. "She can't take the pressure. Max power. Hit the brown note. Break it." The 50 rigs fired their pistons in perfect unison, delivering a final, catastrophic pulse of kinetic energy into the ground. The sound that followed was the death knell of perfection. It started at the top of the highest spire. A single crack, loud as a thunderclap, appeared in the flawless diamond. It shot downwards, branching out like lightning, racing across the entire 10-mile surface of the city in milliseconds. The citadel of eternal refraction didn't fall over. It didn't crumble. It detonated. The immense internal tension of the perfect diamond lattice, unable to contain the vibrational energy any longer, released all at once. The entire city exploded outwards in a blinding, deafening shower of billion-ton diamond shards. It was as if a mountain made of glass had been hit by the hammer of God. The shockwave flattened the surrounding landscape for 50 miles. When the dust, a glittering cloud of diamond powder, finally settled, the citadel was gone. Only a massive, jagged crater remained, filled with the broken, shimmering remnants of the Krystari civilization. Hierarchon Kalis survived, barely. He was found later by human recovery teams, his body cracked and splintered, trapped under a slab of what used to be his throne room. He looked up at Engineer Mulligan, who was inspecting the damage with a bored expression. "How?" Kalis whispered, his voice a broken tinkle of glass. "It was perfect. It was eternal." Mulligan spit another stream of tobacco onto the ruins of the alien god city. He tapped the side of his massive seismic rig with a wrench. "That's the thing about being tough, buddy," Mulligan growled. "If you're too hard to bend, you're just waiting to break. You built a perfect statue. We just brought a big enough hammer to find the weak spot." He turned to his crew. "Load up the debris. These diamond chunks are gonna make great drill bits for the next job." The conquest of Geoprime was the loudest victory in human history. The humans didn't need energy weapons to defeat the invincible. They just needed brute mechanical force and a basic understanding of resonance. Humanity had proven the ultimate industrial HFY truth. You can build walls that can stop a supernova. You can be made of the hardest material in the universe. But everything that exists has a vibration. And if you stand in our way, we won't bother trying to cut through you. We'll just find your note, turn up the volume, and shake you until you shatter. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. If it doesn't bend, it breaks. If you enjoyed this shattering victory over the crystal aliens, hit that like button. Comment below. What's the most indestructible thing in sci-fi that you think humans could break with a simple tool? Subscribe for the next story in the New Frontier saga, the Chrono Tripwire. The hammer has fallen. The diamond is dust.